Hello and welcome to Inside the Ruck. I'm Pat Clifton.
I'm James Paterson.
Guys, this is the season premiere of our first ever season for Major League Rugby's fourth season of Inside the Ruck. We're going to take you behind the scenes with this magazine show, try to tell you some of the stories, try to build some narratives for you. We're really looking forward to it. You may have seen our pilot episode we released a couple of months ago. You may have seen the interview with Commissioner George Killebrew that we released last week as a little bit of an appetizer. But now we're going to be coming each and every week. James, what are you most excited about doing this show? What is it that you want to get out there to the world, that you want to provide to the MLR universe, if you will?
I think we all see MLR on the surface, but what we don't know is we don't know the players behind the jerseys. And I think it's one of the most fascinating leagues in rugby in the world because you've got this dynamic mixture of these superstars coming in from overseas with these homegrown talents that have played rugby in the States from a young age. So what we want to do is share these stories with you. We're just as excited as you guys will be to hear them when we get a chance to speak with these guys.
A lot of good guys in this league, a lot of friends of ours, a lot of guys that are very interested. I can't wait to follow Chris Bowman around. I want to get in that RV. I want to hold his crystals. I want to learn from this man. I want to pet his mullet. And I want to take a camera with me, and I want to show him and this wild adventure to you. So that's what we want to do with this show on Inside the Ruck, is show you some of the characters and build some of the narratives. And so let's dive right into it right away. We're going to start with our segment here, headlines. We're going to go through some of the biggest headlines of the week every week, and then we'll go away. We'll show you a little bit of a profile. We're going to argue about some predictions later, maybe talk about some players, and just dive full nerd mode into Major League Rugby 2021. So headlines this week. Matt Giteau, he splashed all over him. What do you think about the signing?
I mean, just continues to build on what we've seen as this huge splash in the off-season by the Giltinis. Everything they've done has been big. And really, we talked about it earlier, how much of an impact they're actually going to have in their inaugural season. Players like this are going to go a long way towards it. They've done great things in the offseason. Adam Ashley Cooper, obviously. Now, Matt Giteau, 103 test caps. He's still got a lot left in his legs as well. You watched him play. He was playing over in Japan, having a bit of a work holiday over there playing rugby, but before that in Toulon, and then obviously all his experience in Super Rugby. It'll be interesting to see where they play him, most likely at 10, I would say. But players like that is just going to bring a sense of calm, especially when you talk about the group of players that's been put together from all around the country.
What excites me the most is that he's the best player to come over. We've had Tendai Matsuiro, we've had Ma'ananu, we've had Matthew Bastareaud. Those guys have not played 9 or 10. They have not touched the ball. They have not run the attack. And we've had some fantastic 10s, Super Rugby 10s, really good 10s in this league. But Giteau is by far the best player who's got fly half experience. And we saw a little bit of Ma'ananu, just his cutout passes that were routine for a guy like him at 12, what they looked like in Major League Rugby. And I am excited to see what Matt Giteau can do, if indeed he does play 10, marshaling a Major League Rugby offense against, you know, a whole bunch of other guys like Kieran Farmer, you know, the kid, the American kid down in Houston, should he take the field. I love that. And you know, that high performance versus grassroots clash that we're looking to see. Of course, Matt Giteau is going to be playing a small guy in a giant stadium, the Coliseum, the LA Coliseum, confirmed. It had been rumored. Then it was rumored they were going to maybe play at UCLA, as a little smaller venue, but no, they're playing in the 100,000 seat, whatever, 100 million seat LA Coliseum. What do you think about that?
I mean, I was lucky enough to go to, I think it was a USC Arizona State game, and I was on the field back in the day.
You and Snoop Dogg were probably there.
I didn't know anything about him at that time, of course, but
yeah,
just the atmosphere, just the magnitude of the place.
And then we've got our first COVID cancellation of the MLR preseason technically, but of MLR 2021, Rugby ATL versus Old Glory DC. Canceled. They cited COVID-19 positive test protocols for the reason for cancellation. So this is the first COVID season. It was bound to happen that we were going to be reading a COVID press release of some kind. This is the first one. What do you think?
I think from what I heard in the background, there's probably a little bit more caution there, that they didn't want to expose themselves, knowing that the start of the season was next week. I think it's going to be a big challenge. Let's not lie. We've got the states right now. You've got some states fully open. Of course, you've got teams down in that environment. Those teams we've talked about, how rigorous they're going to be about their protocol, because they need to understand that we don't have the ability in Major League Rugby. We can't say CBS, just, you know, move aside 2.5 Brothers or whatever the show is and put us on that night. Was it 2.5 Brothers? I can't remember.
I'm thinking of the Wayans
2.5
Brothers.
Men.
That's the
yeah,
show
so
I
Two
want
and
to
a Half
watch.
Men. That was the one I used to watch as a kid.
Put on the Wayans Brothers before and after Major League Rugby, and you're going to be having a great show.
It's just going to be difficult. So It's going to test us. I think Major League Rugby has done a great job in the offseason setting up these protocols, and I think you're going to see a little bit more probably continuity in some of these sides, because they're not going to be able to ride their stars, because what they need to do now is they need to have this preparation platform. It's no longer just your 28 players, yeah? You're going to have an extended squad, because if a few guys go down, you've got to fill that void.
It's wild. We saw it. I mean, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. A year here, we watched it. You know, the Chiefs had this peanut brittle offensive line in the Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes was dodging bullets the entire game. We had 2 offensive linemen opt out of COVID opt out of the season because of COVID before it even started. So it impacted college football greatly. The results there. It's going to impact Major League Rugby. We'd all be lying to ourselves if we said that it doesn't. And of course, the sad news coming out of Rugby United New York is the surprising departure of head coach Greg McWilliams, assistant coach for the USA, the attack coach there. Really beloved guy, former head coach at Yale. Positive, just oozes positive energy, oozes humor, loves to play his guitar. I don't know a guy in the sport of rugby that knows Greg McWilliams that doesn't love him, and he's got to leave for family considerations. My thoughts are with him and his wife, and hopefully brighter days for them ahead. It's got to be gutting, I'm sure, for him personally to take over the team in right before COVID shortened season, and then work the entire year, which has been a grind for everyone in professional sports, and then not get the payoff of being able to take the field and just get to the precipice. I'm sure it's an absolute gut punch for him, but I know it's best for him and his family. So wishing you the best, Greg. From a rugby perspective, on the pitch, what does this do to Rugby United New York in that setup? Losing your head coach unsuspectedly, surprisingly, 16 days before kickoff.
I think to a lot of other teams, it would probably be more significant. If you hear from the player's perspective about how he coached, he was really managing the players and getting the best out of the players. You take that side and you look at some of the experience, guys like Foden, and then you get, Andy Ellis coming across, obviously an All Black, part of the Crusaders franchise, one of the most successful franchises in world rugby, and they have a very senior leadership type coaching environment there. The players do a lot of the coaching. I think you just see this guy step up, and honestly, as sad as it is to lose the coach, I don't actually think it affects them that much because of what Greg McWilliams has done, empowering the leadership of that team to lead by example.
When you have adversity like this, you basically have a choice. You can choose to let it codify the team and bring it together and be something to rally around, or you can choose to let it kind of fester and let it do what people think it may do and become a distraction. And so we'll see what Rugby United New York does. To your point about Andy Ellis, I was talking to a player up there, and I said, tell me about Andy Ellis, the All Black scrum half. He's like, that guy's a scrum half? It's like, he's been coaching mostly. I've hardly seen him play, but I don't think I've seen him take a rep at scrum half. So I think, to your point, Andy Ellis is filling that role quite a bit more, and I think Marty Veal is going to step up. He's got a lot of head coaching experience through Old Blue, and of course a fantastic playing background. So I'm sure Rugby United New York will find a way. They've got a bunch of senior leaders up there. Dylan Fawcett, Nate Brakely, Kyle Sumption come to mind. So I'm sure that they're going to rally around this and do their best. But heart goes out to the McWilliams family and Rugby United New York. That's going to do it for this segment. We're going to throw it to commercial, and when we come back, we're going to do a little behind the scenes and introduce you, if you don't know him, Malcolm May, the back row flanker for NOLA Gold.
Are you curious about CBD? How do you know which one to choose? Take the guesswork out of purchasing CBD. At CBD American Shaman, our knowledgeable staff will ensure you get a personalized experience suited to your needs. Our products have the U.S. Hemp Authority seal of approval, giving you the confidence you're purchasing the best quality CBD. If you suffer from aches, soreness, sleeplessness, or just need to feel balanced, come see why we say life is better with the feather. CBD American Shaman.
High school phenom commits to a D1 powerhouse, becomes a big man on campus and an All-American. Then, the major leagues come calling. It's a narrative as American as apple pie, but until recently, totally foreign to American rugby. That is, until Major League Rugby came along, birthing rugby's version of the American dream. Among the first generation to realize it is NOLA Gold flanker Malcolm May. His story has one foot in American rugby's amateur past, representing so many who came before, and another in its professional future, blazing a trail for those yet to come. A friend says to a freshman high school football player, "Hey, you're big, you should try rugby." And so he does.
I'll give it a try. And I ended up liking it way more than football. I got to touch the ball. Because in football, I was an offensive lineman my freshman year. So once I got to touch the ball, I was fully in. I think before I started playing rugby, I was kind of a shy kid. And rugby kind of helped me find my voice and helped me to understand that I can do anything I want if I work hard, if I put the work in.
May's combination of size and speed at St. Ignatius College Prep caught the eyes of rep-side coaches like former U.S. national teamer David Fee, who coached May on the Southside Irish, a traveling high school sevens team.
I actually didn't make the first high school All-American camp, but a few people dropped out, and then David Fee was able to get me that last spot. So once I got that opportunity at camp, I just kind of fully went with it, just took it. Then I got a spot on high school All-Americans. And once I started regularly playing for that squad, that's when I felt like this is something I can do in college, this is something I want to do for a while.
May ran with his new team all the way to the 2014 Youth Olympic Games in Nanjing, China, where he represented Team USA against the world's best on its brightest stage, a scene stolen straight from Mighty Ducks.
It was like a different world for me, honestly. I'd never been that far out of the country. I think I'd gone to Europe with high school Americans, Argentina, but never thought I'd make it all the way to China. But it was there was a little bit of a adjustment period. One, the air there is not as clean as here. So I got asthma while I was there. Yeah. So I'm using an inhaler in between every game, just coughing up a storm. I get stomach cramps. But no, it was a fun trip. It was a good experience to be around other athletes of a high caliber and kind of see what other teams do and what other people do. It made me think of how far across the world and how many connections you can make playing rugby as opposed to say football. You're traveling the U.S., but rugby you're traveling everywhere.
Just as May finds himself among the first navigating the nascent days of American professional rugby, he was among the first to choose between a scholarship at one of rugby's new varsity intercollegiate programs and a more traditional club experience at a larger school. He found a blend of both at Penn State, where rugby enjoys varsity-like status, allowing talented rugby recruits to gain admission where they otherwise may not.
It was around April or May. I was about to commit to Davenport, then I got the email that said, "Oh, I got into Penn State." It's great school, great rugby.
While May was putting together an All-American career at Penn State, playing under the collegiate game's brightest lights, like at the Collegiate Rugby Championship, professional rugby was taking its first steps in America, beginning with Pro Rugby North America, which tanked after its lone season in 2016.
With pro rugby, that's when I thought it was possible, and I kind of got a little confused once it stopped. And then I was maybe I'll just find a connection and maybe try to go overseas and play, and then MLR popped up.
When we met him at the College All-Americans, he came down to that interview, khakis, polo, had a notebook, taking notes. He's always got a notebook in his hand, taking notes, writing down stuff. And you could tell right off the bat that's, set the tone of what kind of player he is.
May logged only 41 minutes in 2 games as a rookie before suffering a season-ending injury. While out, he became a more serious student of the game, prepping for a big comeback in 2020.
He started opening day for us and scored the first try here, at the gold mine, So we're really excited and happy about his development. He grinds, daily, and he's in there in the gym every single day, working every single day, communicating with Kane. Tough kid, tough player. I really like him.
Injury curtailed May's rookie season, and COVID cut short his sophomore comeback. Both times, he turned to the film room in the hopes of returning to the pitch better off. The Gold took notice, signing him to a 2-year extension during quarantine.
You look at our sports code and everything like that, the most guy that's always watching most film is always Malcolm.
I got comfortable on the college level, going to games, not really that many nerves, and then there's just there was a learning curve, so to say. So just the speed of everything, so much faster. I didn't want to be one of those guys who, this is my first time not starting, I'm going to be a brat about it. So I wanted to learn kind of how to be a good teammate through that and how to come off the bench, and that took an adjustment as well. But you have to study. You have to study to the point where it's just second nature to you. I'm kind of helping the new guys this year get it, because I remember my first year, I felt lost.
He's kind of always been the best player on his team. To come to a place where he isn't in the starting team and things like that, that's a mental challenge for young guys, and I think he handled it really well. one of the first guys that'll meet me at the field to do one-on-one stuff. I know that we did some tackling drills last year, and I thought I broke like 4 ribs from his first hit on me. So I don't think he's there at his peak yet, and I think when he gets to that peak, he's going to be a force, and I think a US Eagle.
Kind of just take it like day by day, like year by year. Like I'm just trying to become the best rugby player that I can become, like through the MLR, and the MLR is like great for that.
University and college rugby teams. Save 50% on your next custom Rhino Rugby team kit order with a sponsorship from Penn Mutual. Your design, your logos, your colors. Includes jerseys, shorts, and socks. Save 50% on your next custom Rhino Rugby team kit order with a sponsorship from Penn Mutual. Learn more at rhinorugby.com.
Live free with CBD. Grown here in America's heartland, the land we love. Made by our neighbors in communities like yours. Brought to you by people like you. From the seed to the shelf, you can trust us. Live free with American Shaman CBD.
Hopefully you enjoyed that peek behind the scenes with NOLA Gold flanker Malcolm May. I know we enjoyed following him around New Orleans. We watched him in that inter-squad scrimmage. He's got a little competition in the back row there, but best of luck this season, Malcolm. Now we're going to jump into the segment where every week we're going to zoom into a positional battle and tell you why it's really important for the outcome of that game. And we're going to start with the LA Guiltinis against the New England Free Jacks, and we're going to start out on the wing with John Ryberg against Dougie Fife. What do you make of these two guys?
Obviously, both fantastic players. I like John Ryberg. I mean, no player since the inception of Major League Rugby has probably run for more meters, beaten more tacklers, and scored more tries than John Ryberg. He's gone under the radar in the offseason. If you look at some of the massive signings, Adam Ashley Cooper and Matt Giddo we talked about earlier, but a player that will make a difference for your attack is John Ryberg. He gives you go-forward ball out of nothing, and that's what this team needs.
John Ryberg, it's kind of, you got the old MLR versus the new MLR. He led the league in tries a couple of years ago. Grassroots American kid who maybe doesn't get an opportunity in today's MLR quite as fast because you have guys like Dougie Fife who've got 100 caps for Edinburgh coming over and taking up contracts, and guys like Adam Ashley Cooper. So I'm excited. We've got grassroots versus high performance, pro versus amateur. So of course they're both pros now. We've got, you know, the clash of two worlds here, and I can't wait to see who wins that run and straight challenge. Let's move over, of course, to Atlanta against Toronto and talk about a pair of back rowers from Canada and Matt Heaton versus Lucas Rumble. Forwards obviously go a long way towards winning every match. So do the open side flankers. No different in this matchup.
Yeah, and I think this year we're going to see it even more. There's going to be more of an emphasis. The better teams last year, like the Legion, they were the ones that were able to create the slowest ruck ball. The teams that were the most successful created the fastest ruck ball. So in this situation, you look at a pair of sevens. You've got the veteran Rumble against probably the younger player who's got a point to prove for his country. He subbed him in the Rugby World Cup in 2019. I'm very excited to see the matchup.
That's right. You got Rumble, who broke into the Canada team just a year prior to Matt Heaton, and both played in their first World Cup at the same time frame. They're competing for the same jersey when they're with Canada. Now they're playing against each other, I imagine, with a little bit of a point to prove. If nothing else, going up against Jermaine is a fun time. So a big battle down there as Toronto takes on Atlanta. And then let's also look at, if you're new to Major League Rugby, you may not have heard of those two guys, but if you're a rugby fan at all, you've heard of at least one of these guys, all right? We've got San Diego taking on New York. They're in Las Vegas, in Sin City, and Chris Robshaw will be making his debut, the former England captain for San Diego, probably at 6, and Cara Pryor will be lining up for Rugby United New York, probably at 7, coming over from New Zealand. What do you make of these two guys?
I love it. Look at Rob Shaw. We've talked about him. Huge signing for 300 caps in rugby. Like 300 caps for a professional club. He is the consummate professional. You can expect his fingerprint to be all over the forward pack's play this year. He's probably not as dynamic of a player as Cara Pryor, but does the fundamentals well, and he will be an influence maker on this team.
without question. Kerr Pryor is a ball hawk. He is a dynamic runner in the outside channels, loves his offload. I can't wait to see him. I know he's already turning heads amongst his teammates there in New York. And of course, Rob Shaw is one of the headlining signings of all of Major League Rugby's acquisitions to date, this offseason, of course, as well. So I'm excited to watch that one. Now let's just dive briefly into some of the other games, of course, that we've got here in week 1. We've got Houston taking on Seattle. Both of these teams 1-4 last year. What do you make of this matchup?
I think both teams have a big point to prove. Obviously, last year the season was cut short, and you could see, perhaps some of the post-celebration jitters from Seattle. Going back-to-back is difficult. Going back-to-back is even more difficult. And you just saw maybe they were starting to just lose a little bit, but I think you're going to see them step up as they start this season.
It's actually the first time Seattle's actually gone back-to-back seasons with the same head coach in Keys Lensing, so I'm excited to see if that continuity helps them out. And of course, the SaberCats, they've been working to get off the schneid basically since the start of Major League Rugby. They have struggled to get, finish above 500, struggled to finish in the top half of the league, and they didn't make a whole lot of change from last year to this year. This will be the second year for their head coach, so it's interesting. I'm interested to see how they do without making a ton of changes, how the SaberCats do. Both of these guys looking to improve on last year's records. Of course, we've got Austin taking on Utah as well. We've got Paul Oakenfeld, the DJ, the big-time performer, opening up for this one. What do you make of this performance? We've got a couple of Eagles and new teams in this one as well.
All those Gilgroniak fans will be roaring and ready for the start of the season, and I really like the look of this Austin side. You've got Bryce Campbell, you've got Frank the Tank Halai, you've got Will McGee, you've got the influence of some of the international experience coming into the forward pack. You've got a guy like Isaac Ross, former All Black, Canterbury player, Jamie McIntosh. I really like the way that Austin was trending last season, and I think we're going to see big things this year.
I think you just dropped 3 All Black names, so that's a pretty good sign if you're a Gilgronis fan. Utah, they've got some big names in the American space as well. Mikey Teo, former San Diego Legion, one of America's favorite Eagles, can play all over the back line, probably line up at 15 for them. Very electric player. Lance Williams, the former Hawaii linebacker, led the Rainbow Warriors all time in tackles. He's really developing as a rugby player. And they've also signed a pair of Eagle forwards. Sean Pittman, a former Eagle prop, stepping up into the head coaching role, and he's brought a couple of his old Eagle teammates into the mix, with Ali Khalifi coming in from Seattle. And of course, Paul Mullen, who he didn't play with, but he's gotten to coach as a forwards coach with the Eagles, coming over from San Diego. So a couple of big acquisitions there for Utah. I'm excited to see these two teams line up. And then we've also got, of course, the other matchup in week 1 is NOLA versus DC. DC's only loss last year was the season opener at NOLA, and it was by a wide margin. I think they're looking for revenge. What do you think about this matchup?
I like the matchup. I mean, look at the offseason for NOLA. JP Duplessis come down. Massive signing for them. I think we're going to see NOLA play a little bit more connected this season. I think they've had a very good offseason from what I understand, talking to some of the players, but they do have a very tough match up against this DC side. NOLA, the best scrum in the league statistically last year, taking on the worst scrum in the league. I think DC lost a third of all their scrums last season.
Yeah, NOLA had a great, from a lot of perspectives, a great offseason, right? And they've moved into a new stadium full-time. They took the whole thing over. They're working out of it day to day. They've signed a bunch of really great players. They've got some continuity. And another aspect, they've had a really tough offseason. They lost Sean Riley, unexpectedly during the offseason, one of their teammates, the fittest guy on the team. They've had a couple of other familial losses within the team. So this is going to be the first time they take the field since the recent death of Sean Riley, and I think that they're going to rally around that. We got to spend a little time with them in New Orleans, so I know that they're excited to get back to rugby. I know that much. And I know we all are excited to get back to rugby. So we're going to take a little break here and come right back to Inside the Ruck.
Tell them it's 'cause I like them.
Welcome back to Inside the Ruck. This season, we want to hear from you at home, you the fans, all right? We're going to take you behind the scenes in the locker room and besides the players, but we want to hear from you the fans at home. Why don't you tell them exactly what we want them to do, James?
Take us behind the scenes. We know you Gilgroniacs, you Giltastics, and you Rattlers. You guys have a great time. Show us a great video in your swag. Share the game day experience. We've got so many fantastic stadiums around the country. As we start to get fans out to the games, let us know why you support your teams.
Pull out your phone in the tailgate, on the way to the game, in the living room if you're staying at home for that week, at the bar if you meet up with a few friends to watch it. Pull out your phone, show us the experience. We want to see it, and we want to show everyone out there it as well. So share it with us. Tag us on social media. We showed you our personal tags earlier in the show. Rugby Offloads on Instagram or Twitter. Tag us, DM us, share it with us so that we can share it with the world. And that's going to do it this week for Inside the Ruck, the first ever episode in the books. Come back next week. We'll talk more Major League Rugby.